The 2026 World Cup was supposed to be the biggest tournament in football history, a celebration of the sport spanning 3 nations and 48 teams. But last night, in the mixed zone outside the dressing rooms at Lumen Field in Seattle, one of the tournament's most respected captains stood in front of cameras and said something no governing body wants to hear from one of its own competing nations mid-tournament on the record. So, what actually happened? Why has Iran's captain reached boiling point? And what does it tell us about the gap between FIFA's promises and what's actually unfolding on the ground? Let's break it down. Start with the background, because the context surrounding this outburst matters enormously to understanding why it landed the way it did. Iran needed a win against Egypt in their final group match to guarantee automatic qualification from Group G. Instead, they were held to a 1-1 draw, a result that leaves Team Melli's World Cup survival now dependent on results elsewhere, as they wait to discover whether they'll squeeze through as one of the tournament's 8 best third-place teams under this year's newly expanded format. Mohamed Sabi gave Egypt the lead after Mohamed Salah's initial effort was parried into his path before Ramin Rezaeian equalized for Iran, a result that earned him the match's Player of the Award. Taremi himself had a difficult night on the pitch, missing an early penalty after his effort was saved by Egyptian goalkeeper Mostafa Shober, and then watching what looked like a dramatic stoppage time winner ruled out by VAR for offside by the narrowest of margins. Egypt, by contrast, secured a historic first-ever place in the World Cup knockout stage, finishing the group stage unbeaten, a genuinely significant achievement for Egyptian football, regardless of how the night ended for their opponents. On the pitch, it was a result both teams could point to with some pride. Off the pitch, it became something else entirely. This is far from the first time Iran's participation in this tournament has generated headlines beyond the football itself. The squad situation has been one of the most closely watched storylines of the entire group stage, given the unprecedented circumstances surrounding their preparation and travel arrangements throughout the competition. This matters because of everything Iran's squad has been navigating since before the tournament even began. Due to the ongoing military conflict between Iran and both the United States and Israel, Iran's federation was forced to relocate its entire training base from Tucson, Arizona to Tijuana, Mexico in the final stretch before the World Cup started. That single decision meant every match Iran played inside the United States required an international border crossing both before and immediately after every single fixture, something no other competing nation in this tournament has had to manage as a basic condition of simply playing football. Here's where things get interesting, because Taremi didn't hold back when reporters asked him directly about the team's immediate return to Tijuana following the final whistle against Egypt. "Yeah, we have to go back," Taremi said. "We have always complained about these things since the beginning. It's a disaster, World Cup disaster. I mean, FIFA, they have to solve every problem here, but unfortunately, they couldn't solve it since the beginning." He then went further, revealing a specific promise that he says FIFA's own president made directly to the squad and that he says was never actually delivered on. "Mr. Infantino came to our changing room in the first game and said it's just the beginning, but it's the group stage finish tomorrow, and we don't have our logistics people here. They don't have a visa," Taremi said. That detail, a personal visit from Gianni Infantino to Iran's dressing room after their opening match against New Zealand, carries real weight. It wasn't a written statement from a press office or a generic tournament-wide assurance. According to Taremi, it was FIFA's president in person telling the players directly that their concerns would be addressed as the tournament progressed. By the time the group stage concluded, Taremi says nothing had actually changed. But that's only part of the story, because the specific logistical failures Taremi described go well beyond a single broken promise, and they paint a picture of a squad operating with significantly less support than the rest of the field. Taken together across a single team's experience at a single tournament, they form a pattern specific enough that Taremi's frustration reads less like an overreaction to one disappointing result, and more like the culmination of weeks of accumulated grievance finally reaching a breaking point in front of live cameras. Iran's head coach, Amir Galanoy, echoed his captain's frustration, though he directed his criticism in a slightly different direction. Rather than focusing primarily on FIFA's own organizational failures, Galanoy pointed specifically at the host nation. "I know Mr. Infantino has tried his best to minimize the problems as much as possible, but it was the host that wasn't very good to us," Galanoy explained. "That distinction matters." While Taremi placed the responsibility for solving the problem squarely on FIFA's shoulders, his own head coach drew a clearer line between FIFA's effort, which he characterized as genuine, and the actual experience the team had once on the ground, which he attributed more directly to circumstances surrounding their host country relationship. Let's make this human for a moment, because behind the institutional finger-pointing are professional athletes whose entire careers have built toward this exact tournament. Picture preparing for the biggest stage in football only to discover that basic infrastructure other teams take for granted, kit staff, recovery specialists, even media representation, simply isn't available to you because of visa processes entirely outside your control. Picture playing every single match knowing that regardless of the result, win, lose, or draw, you'll be crossing an international border within hours with no opportunity to properly recover in the city where you just competed. And yet, even in the middle of voicing this frustration, Taremi was careful to separate the players' effort and commitment from the circumstances surrounding them. We do our best. We always do our best. We play for our people. We want them to be happy. We want to bring the joy. We want to send them a message of peace for the people in Iran, outside Iran, for FIFA, for everyone. But there is no peace about the others to us, he said. He also took personal responsibility for his missed penalty, despite everything else weighing on the team. There are no words about the games because we did our best during 90 minutes given the situation we had since the beginning till now. We are proud of ourselves, and if anything happens, it's my responsibility because I lose the penalty. And if we pass the group stage, yeah, thank God. That combination, genuine institutional anger, paired with personal accountability and pride in his teammates, is what's made this particular outburst resonate so widely across football media within hours of it happening. So, where does this leave things heading into the final reckoning of the group stage? Iran's qualification fate is now entirely out of their own hands, dependent on how the 8 best third-place teams ultimately get determined once every group's matches conclude. FIFA has not yet issued any formal public response specifically addressing Taremi's comments or the broader pattern of visa and logistics complaints his team has raised throughout the tournament. Given how close to the end of the group stage these comments arrived, any formal organizational response is more likely to come in the days following the conclusion of the group phase than in the immediate aftermath of the match itself. The more significant question, regardless of whether Iran ultimately advances, is whether this becomes a genuine catalyst for change in how FIFA handles visa and logistic support for competing nations at future multi-host tournaments, or whether it simply gets filed alongside the dozens of other access and fairness controversies that have already defined this tournament's build-up and group stage. Given the sheer specificity of what Taremi described, 11 senior officials denied visas, the forced relocation from Arizona to Mexico, the repeated post-match border crossings. This particular complaint carries a level of detail that's harder to dismiss than more generalized frustrations raised elsewhere in the tournament. So, here's where things stand. Iran fought to a hard-earned draw against a team that's now made history reaching their first ever World Cup knockout stage. Off the pitch, Iran's captain delivered one of the most direct, sustained criticisms of FIFA's tournament organization that any player has offered at this World Cup, naming a personal promise from the organization's own president that he says was never fulfilled. Whether Iran's own campaign continues into the round of 32 remains genuinely uncertain, hanging on results elsewhere in the tournament over the coming hours. What do you think? Does Taremi's criticism reflect a genuine institutional failure on FIFA's part? Or are these the kinds of logistical challenges that come with running an unprecedented 3-nation, 48-team tournament for the first time? And do you think Iran deserves to advance based on their performances on the pitch, regardless of what's been happening around them? Iran has been affected by visa issues that prevented 11 senior officials from joining the team altogether, according to reporting on the situation. That's not a minor inconvenience. Modern international football squads travel with extensive support staff, kit managers, video analysts, sports scientists, medical personnel, all the infrastructure that allows players to recover properly between matches and prepare specifically for upcoming opponents. Taremi was blunt about what that absence actually meant in practice. Our logistics don't work here. Where is our media? You can check. No media here, no media, no kit men, no one, he said. He also raised the question of basic media representation, pointing out that Iran's own journalists covering the tournament have faced their own access restrictions throughout the competition, leaving the squad without even the normal press infrastructure other competing nations have taken for granted. The travel arrangement itself became the most repeated grievance in Taremi's comments. "How is it possible we always have to travel to Tijuana?" he asked. "We love the people of Mexico. We love Tijuana. It's so good. They are such humble people. We love them. But as a professional player, professional competition, it's not right." He made clear his frustration wasn't with Mexico or its people at all, but with the basic unfairness of a system that required his team to repeatedly cross an international border for recovery when every other squad in the tournament could simply return to a hotel in the same city where they'd just played. This matters because recovery time is not a luxury at the elite level of football. It's a core component of how professional athletes manage fatigue and prepare for their next fixture. Taremi spelled out exactly what was at stake if Iran somehow advances despite these conditions. "You imagine we pass the group stage tomorrow. We get our luck and we pass the group stage, but we don't have any recovery. How possible is this? Just explain to me if you know." When pressed on who specifically should be held responsible for resolving these issues, Taremi's frustration boiled over into something close to genuine exasperation. Who wants to help us? Who? If they want us to be out, okay, let's go out. Let's get out. But that's not fair. We don't have recovery. We don't have any logistic people here to help us. What do we say? We always complain about these things, but no one helps. No one. He pushed further still, demanding an actual answer rather than a vague institutional response. Who has to solve this problem for us? Who? FIFA? I don't know. USA? I don't know. Who? Just mention one name for me. The bigger issue here is that Taremi wasn't simply venting about a single bad night. He was describing a sustained 3-week pattern that he says the team raised repeatedly throughout the tournament, only to keep receiving the same response. "We always complain about these things since the beginning," he said, a phrase that suggests this press conference wasn't the first time these concerns had been raised, just the first time they'd been aired this publicly and this forcefully. It's worth placing this within the broader pattern that's defined Iran's entire World Cup experience, not just this single post-match interview. Their federation president was previously denied entry at a Canadian airport while attempting to attend a FIFA Congress event months before the tournament even began. The team's preparation camp had to be relocated entirely due to circumstances beyond football. And now, 11 senior support staff have reportedly been unable to obtain visas throughout the group stage itself. Taken individually, each of these incidents might be explained away as an isolated administrative hiccup.